I actually got to talk with some of these billionaire Jewish owners. Because I was in the NFL, I actually got to go to the synagogue, and I learned in the synagogue why in history that a small nation like Israel has produced so many of the most controlling people on the world. I figured out exactly why it happened, and I'm going to share this with you today. Again, my job is to peel back the curtain of the elites. I was behind the scenes so that I can expose what they do to you in terms of the elites and what you can do to control your reality. That's my job. Let's get into it. So let me tell you how I got to this synagogue. So I know enough Hebrew to be dangerous. And so one day I was at the bank, and there was a guy with a yarmulke on his head, and he was in front of me, and he was faced this way, like his back was towards me. And so it was in the morning, so I said, Boker Tov ma nishma. And so basically that means, good morning, my brother, what's up? And so he turns around looking to see a Hebrew guy or a Jewish guy, and he turns around and sees your brother with a beard. He looks at me, I look at him, he was like, hey, what's up, man? Like, how do you know this? Are you from Israel? I was like, no. He said, are you Jewish? I said, no. He said, so like, why do you know my language? I said, oh, I've just studied enough. And, I just implemented it into my speaking. He was like, speaking? I said, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I'm a motivational speaker. And so being the guy that he is, he says, what's your name? So I said, my name is Andre Fluellen. So he immediately pulls out his phone, but then while he's about to look me up, he says, hold on. And he goes to the bank teller. He says, yeah, so I need $50,000 cash. I need 25,000 in hundreds, 10,000s in 50s, and then like 15,000 or whatever it is left over in fives, 10s, and 20s. And so then he turns back around after he looks me up. He says, you're not a motivational speaker. He was like, I don't see you online. When I look up Andre Fluellen, all I see is some football player. And I was like, he said, oh, you're the football player. I said, yeah. He said, well, you know what? Man, you seem pretty cool and you know my language. Why don't you come to the synagogue on Saturday? And I said, seriously? He said, yeah, come on up. So I said, all right, I'll be there. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'll be there. So Saturday comes around. Saturday morning, I go to the synagogue. It's a beautiful compound, but you have to go through security just to get on the compound. So you got to go through a gate first, and the guard lets you in the gate. So the guard sees me pull up. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. He has the same skin complexion as I do. He says, hey, bro, you supposed to be here? I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. He said, are you sure? Like he was trying to watch out for me. I said, yeah, bro, I'm supposed to be here. He said, oh, you're the guy. Okay, let me let you in. So he opens the gate. I mean, when I say this place was immaculate, absolutely amazing. So then I park my car, get to the front door. So a guy pokes his head out. He has a little yarmulke on. And he says, hey, you supposed to be here? I said, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. He said, are you sure? He was kind of looking out for me. I was like, yeah, I'm the guy Rabbi Hershey invited. He said, oh, it's you. He said, okay. He said, but can't let you come in like that. Now, I had a suit on and everything. I was looking sharp. I was like, what you mean you can't let me come in like this? He said, no, tradition. So he says, hold on one second. He goes, he comes back, he gives me one of those little yarmulke things that put on my head. He says, now you can come in. Now, when I say this place was like a palace on the inside, it was just immaculate, not just in terms of visibility, but in terms of energy. Now, the whole place, the whole sermon, the whole message was in Hebrew. And again, I know a little bit of Hebrew, but not enough to understand it from a conversational standpoint. And so there was a guy that was in there that was helping me follow along. So if you don't know anything about Hebrew, Hebrew reads right to left. So we typically read left to right, but Hebrew reads right to left. So the book is quote unquote backwards. Now this is super important to understand that Hebrew is written backwards in comparison to English. Remember that, Hebrew backwards. So he's doing a sermon, and now I'm telling you, if you've never been to a synagogue, man, these folks can preach. Now I didn't know what they were saying, but man, Buddy was, wild. He was wild. He was Pentecostal if you ever been to the South into a church. And man, these folks could sing. Like I was just so impressed. And I was like, oh, I see where kind of we got our style from at some point in times. Like, I see how there's a mixture of combinations of cultures. And so it was really cool to see that. But then there was one thing in particular that I must have heard 50 times. And this is what I want you to get. I heard this statement, and again, I know enough Hebrew to trigger something in my brain when I hear it. And this is the statement that I heard over and over and over again. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. What that means, and I'll write it down. It means, hear, O Israel, the Lord, our God, is one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. This right here is the most important statement. And this right here is when I realized why Jewish people and Jewish culture have been known as being so successful. It is because of this litany. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Now, let me explain this to you, because remember, I'm always talking about this 369. And if you haven't realized that this is the Star of David, and so remember I told you that Hebrew was written in terms of, to them it's forward, but to us it's backwards. And our English is written quote unquote forward. So now we have both sides of this. Remember, I'm reading this in English, I'm hearing it in Hebrew, but I'm also reading it in English. So I'm getting both directions of this. And this is super important. So why is it important? Why is this? What is it about this? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Why is that the most important message that I heard in there? Well, let me break down how reality, but how subconscious programming works. Because remember, I am the ultimate subconscious programmer. And my job for you is to be able to control your subconscious program so that you can become rich and successful. That's like really what I want from you. So this is super important because there are a couple ways the subconscious mind is programmed. But one in particular is actually the most important one that you know of and that you have. And let me explain this to you. And it is all about the process of hearing. If you understand how important the sense of hearing is, you can literally hear your way to riches. You can hear your way to success. And my goal for you is to be able to do that. So let's go with another color. Hearing. Now we got to go back through. Again, I love the Bible because I think of the Bible as the greatest book of psychology that has ever been written. Theology might get you to heaven, but psychology will get heaven to you. And that's what I want for you. So I use the Bible as a book of psychology, not theology. So when we talk about this concept of hearing, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. That's the first word. Now, let's go back and I'm going to explain something biblically for you because listen, I want you to be able to control your reality, your materiality, excuse me. So the first action, the first physical action that we ever see God take, the first physical action that we ever see God take was in Genesis, I think 1:3, that God said. And what did God say? Let there be light. Let's just put let there be. So God said, let there be light, and then there was light. That's the first physical action that we ever see God take. Now, I know Genesis 1:1 says God created the heavens and the earth, but we don't even know what that creative process looked like. But we know when somebody says God said something, somebody spoke something, okay? That's the first thing. So the first physical action that God ever did to the human species was in Genesis, I think 1:27. God said, all right, be fruitful, So the first physical action that God ever did to the human species was to speak to us. Now listen to this. In Genesis 3, the first action that the serpent, in terms of, so if you know the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible or all that, was there was a story where the serpent started, tricked Adam and Eve into eating the fruit. Again, I'm not looking at this as historical fact. I'm not saying it did or didn't happen, but I want you to get the psychology behind it. Because the way that this serpent came to trick them was, the serpent said unto them. So the serpent said. And what did the serpent say? Did God really say? So that's the first thing that the serpent came doing, was speaking. But let's get into it even more. Now, this is the Old Testament. Let's talk about the New Testament, or the New Testament of psychology. In John 1, so the book of John, chapter 1, it says, Jesus was called, all right, the Word. So Jesus was called the Word, and the Word became flesh. So basically, Jesus is called the Word. Now, let's go even further. Now, remember this word here, up here. Okay, again, I know enough Hebrew to be dangerous. So did you know that the first disciple called by Jesus, now look at the disciple, I want you, when I say disciple, please understand, I mean the disciplined of the mind. Get that. It's not in terms of a person that was out, that just followed Jesus around. I want you to look at the disciples, the 12 disciples, not the next time you read the Bible, are disciplines of the mind, okay? So the first discipline that was called to follow Jesus was Simon Peter. Now you got to get this, because this is super, super important. Simon Peter. Now what is Simon? All right, what does Simon mean in Hebrew? Well, Simon comes from a word Shema. Remember I told you, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad? Shema is the same word here. The first disciple or discipline that was called by Jesus, the word was hearing. So you got to understand how important the concept of hearing is. It is the most important faculty to be able to program your subconscious mind that there is. And why would the infinite God, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call him, her, or it, doesn't matter to me, but why would God make hearing the primary way to program your subconscious mind? Because it's the easiest sense to use. See, all I have to do right now, you don't have to do, if you have proper ears, you don't have to do anything to hear me. You don't have to open your ears. You don't have to try to get closer. All you have to do is as long as there's enough volume, you can hear me. And listen, hearing, so if I wanted to see you, I actually have to open my eyes. Okay, like if I wanted to touch you, I have to reach out and touch you. If I wanted to smell you, which I don't, I would have to get close enough to smell you. But literally, you can hear me as I'm in Georgia right now. You can hear my words. Doesn't matter where you are. You can be in Scotland. You can be in Zimbabwe. It does not matter, because the faculty of hearing is the easiest one to transmit. And this is the thing that I got to get you to understand, is that the infinite God, good, love, whatever you want to call him, her, or it, wants things to be easy for you. This is the thing. Life is designed to be easy, but if you don't understand how the mechanisms work, then it's going to seem hard. Now we got this, that hearing is incredibly important. God said, let there be light. God said to man, be fruitful. The serpent said to man, did God really say? Jesus is called the Word. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Simon, Shema, is called hearing. There is so much about hearing in the Bible. I could go on and on about that. But, so what is it about the synagogue, though? And what is it about these Jewish people? Well, you got to understand something about Jewish people, especially when you go inside of a synagogue. And it was fascinating because they've never seen somebody like me. They've never really been around a quote unquote brother that played in the NFL and that spoke Hebrew enough. And so they were fascinated with me, and I'm fascinated with Jewish culture. And so after service, after their church service, they have this thing called Kiddush. And Kiddush is wild, bro. So here's the thing. So one family sponsored the entire meal for everybody in the whole synagogue. So basically, it's like a big picnic that's inside their banquet hall. And one family will be responsible for taking care of the meals for everybody. And then somebody will stand up. And so the rabbi will stand up and say, okay, guys, such and such Goldberg is starting a new business. He's starting a new barbershop. So we need everybody to go to his barbershop for the next 6 months. Done. Somebody is starting a new real estate company. So if you're buying a house, we need everybody who is in the market for a new house to go to Sheila over there. Done. So that's what Kiddush was about. So Kiddush is about community. So they eat, they do business. And then so I'm sitting with a couple guys at the table while we're having Kiddush. And he says, hey, are you thirsty? I'm like thinking, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'll take some water. So he pulls out a bottle of Jack Daniels, put it on the table. And I said, whoa, bro. I said, we're in church. He said, no, we're fine. And it just shocked me because I'm like, okay, we drinking in church. But I was like, no, man, I don't drink anyway, so it's all good. He said, mazel tov. He pours himself up. But what I'm saying is there was no separation between who they were in service and who they were outside of service. And that was fascinating to me. So as I'm sitting at this table, I'm sitting with a few obviously Jewish guys. And so one guy went to the University of Florida. But anyway, so we're talking, and as he was talking, somehow we got on the topic of grades. And he said, I always had good grades in college, and my professor used to always think that I was cheating. I said, why is that? He said, well, I had a drinking problem in college, as a lot of the Gators did. And so he said that his professor was like, hey, man, okay, you're coming here reeking of alcohol. How are you able to pass these tests with flying colors when I know that you just had a late night banger last night? He's like, bro, are you cheating? What is it? Do you know what the guy's answer was? He was like, I'm Jewish. And he kind of laughed it off, and I stopped him. I said, you were dead serious, weren't you? And he was like, kind of, yeah, I was. But he said, that's what I said. And that's when I realized the difference between Jewish people and the difference between most people, and I would even say the difference between Jewish people and black people is a thing that's called the tribe. Now, if you talk to a Jewish person, ask them about the tribe. Jewish people believe that they are part of a very special sect of people. Remember I told you, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. So remember, hearing faculty. If you can hear something over and over and over and over and over again, it will program your subconscious mind to believe that thing. And once your subconscious mind believes that thing or is programmed for that, that's what you're going to see in your life 100% of the time. It does not matter. So when you say, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. When they say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. When they say that over and over again, they are programming their subconscious mind, but programming it with what? That God is one with them. Literally, they are programming their mind to say whatever God has the ability and the capability to do, then we have that same capability of doing that. And you have no idea how important that is, because that's why they believe that they're part of a special tribe. They believe that they're part of a special tribe that has access to oneness, what they call Hashem, what they call God, what they call Adonai. Doesn't matter what they call it, but they believe that they are one tribe with them. Now, let me go ahead and tell you. I'm gonna talk to you black people for a second. Now, I know a lot about being black. I used to be black. I used to be black before I turned green, as my favorite person says. And so, because I say I'm green now, because the only color of power in the American society, as my friend Arthur G. Gaston used to say, is green power. And so I just decided to be green. But besides that, see, these people, they believe that they are one with God. Now, let me ask you, what you black people believe about yourselves? So a lot of times, black people believe that the world is against black people. A lot of times, black people believe that things are harder for them because they're black. A lot of times, black people believe that you have to work twice as hard to be, oh, you finished the sentence for me, to be just as good. And so, but why do we believe that? Well, mama, grandma has told us that over the course of our lives. So remember, one of the ways the subconscious mind is programmed, one of the most efficient ways, if not the most efficient way, is hearing. So if you hear, right, equals programming. So if you hear that over the course of your life, it doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't matter how things seem to be working out for you, you will always meet something that tells you that things are going to be harder for you. You will always meet situations that make things more difficult for you. You will always see things and meet situations that make the world against you. Why? Because you have programmed yourself, or you have been programmed through the faculty of your hearing over and over again that things are harder for black people. So that's why I'm not longer black anymore. That's why I made my own color. But regardless of the fact, that's what the difference between what they did and what most other cultures have done. Now, but it gets even deeper. So I remember when I was talking to an owner of an NFL team. And he's a Jewish fellow. And so we're having this conversation. And this is what he says to me. So we were like, hey, I remember it was a guy, he was the first starting Jewish quarterback in the NFL. It was the first time in history, I believe. Or maybe it was, I just remember it was one of the rare ones. And I remember what he said to me, which was so profound. And he said, he might be the first starting quarterback, but how many owners of our Jewish descent, right? And it was just, the way he said it was with so much pride, but I got it. Because he was like, man, I'm not worried about if there's a starting quarterback. There's plenty of starting quarterbacks that are other cultures. He said, but how many owners are of my culture? See, the thing is, he had believed that because he was part of the tribe, that being an owner of an NFL team was no big deal. And this is the difference. And this is, again, if I want to program your subconscious mind for success, I'll be honest with you. You have to start getting to the point where the things that you desire is no big deal. Being a millionaire is no big deal. Being a decamillionaire, 10 million plus, is no big deal. Being 100 millionaire is no big deal. Being a billionaire is no big deal. Why though? So to them, why is being a billionaire no big deal? Why is owning a team no big deal? I'll tell you why. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. If it's no big deal to God, then it's no big deal to them. And this is where you have to start considering. This is where you have to start programming your mind that if it's no big deal to God, if God can create the entire cosmos with a word, how much less than it is to own a football team or to become a billionaire? That is nothing. See, what you guys have been doing, unfortunately, is you've been looking. So let's say, who wants to make 7 figures? I want all of you, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I want all of you to become high 6 or 7 figure. Actually, I want all of you to make 7 figures a year. Why? Because listen, I want to coach you. I want to be able to coach your subconscious programs just like what I'm doing now. But I want to be able to charge you too. See, my subconscious coaching, I'll be honest with you, it's expensive. It's for people who are making 7 figures. So if I can get you to make 7 figures, then I can get you as a client. Does that make sense? So if you watch these videos and you get there, then holler at your boy and hire me, because this is what people around the world do already. And I want to do it with you if you're watching this video. So listen to me. So you got to get to the point. So let's say you want to make 7 figures. And let's say with 7 figures is what? Let's say it's $100,000 a month. Let's say you want to make $1.2 million. So you want to make $100,000 a month. Okay? That's your quote unquote goal. Now, a lot of you, especially if you're making minimum wage, especially if you're just not doing well, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you look at this. So this is you right here. Okay, this is you, and you're looking up at this right here. Look how much distance that is. Look how much bigger this 100,000 looks per month looks than you. And that's one of the issues, because you're looking at yourself from the perspective of the human perspective, and you're not looking at yourself from the God perspective. Because if you look at yourself from the God perspective, not only is $100,000 a month nothing, you got to understand, once you realize that you are literally God duplicated himself as you here on this earth, and that you have the same capabilities, or Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, since you have that, you're not only saying that, wait, $100,000 is easy, you were saying, I am money. Now, this is where you have to get this inside of your head, that that was my daughter, that I am money. I want you to say it with me. I am money. Now, here's the thing, because this is, oh my God, this is incredibly important to understand. So, one of the names of God in the Bible, especially if you go to Israel, or if you go to a synagogue, you're going to hear Yud He Vav He. Yud He Vav He. So, Yud. I think that's it. I could be mixing up the W's and the H's, but don't worry about that. All right, so Yud Het Vav Het, that is the name of God. Basically, do you know what that name means? It means I am that I am. Listen to me. I am that I am. So if I say, so if I'm looking from a human perspective, I'll say, $100,000 a month. Well, I gotta work hard to get that. Oh my God, I gotta figure some things out. I gotta make some new funnels. I gotta make some more content. I gotta do this. I gotta make the proper hooks in my videos. I'm talking about myself right now, and I gotta do this. And so it looks like that's so big. But when you look at it from a God perspective, you're not even saying that $100,000 is big. You're saying that I am money, because Yud He Vav He literally means I am. That is the name of God. I am. And so here's the thing. Now, this is the craziest part about you being of the human species. Again, I love being a human. It is the most amazing gift to be a human. And I want you to understand what this gift is like, because you have the power of words, okay? You have words and imagination. These are your 2 powers that you have that are greater than any other creature that has ever lived, is you have words and you have imagination, okay? And so look, when you talk about you being God, there's a benefit and there's a problem. The problem is what you say is what becomes. The benefit is what you say is what becomes. It's the problem and the solution at the same time. Because if I say I am money, if I say I am, anything I put after I am, I become. So this is when we talk about in the theological circles, when they say using the Lord's name in vain, literally the name of God is I am. So if you put anything negative after I am, you have literally just used the Lord's name in vain. A lot of people thought putting a cuss word after God meant using the Lord's name in vain. No. Putting anything negative, especially referring to yourself after I am, is using the Lord's name in vain. If you say I am broke, that is using the Lord's name in vain. But the problem is not just using the Lord's name in vain. The biggest problem is the fact that you become what you say consistently. Because I gotta get you to understand this. And this is the most important thing that I'll probably say in this video. Well, one of them is that because you're saying I am and putting something negative, I am stupid, I am broke, I am whatever it is negative, you will get that thing. Now, it doesn't happen automatically, but it happens after you condition your subconscious mind with what? Hearing. Because what you consistently and constantly hear will program your subconscious mind, and what your subconscious mind is programmed for, that's exactly what you're going to get out of life. Now, Listen to this and listen to me very carefully, boys and girls. Every word spoken by you is also spoken to you. Please write that down. Every word spoken by you is also spoken to you. Now, remember I told you, the faculty of hearing is how you program the subconscious mind. So what are you saying about yourself over the course of time? What are you saying about yourself each and every day? It's not the fact that you say something one time. It's not about making these positive affirmations, which are good, but the positive affirmations are actually not supposed to speak things into existence. The actual Bible verse says we speak things as if they have already existed. Because what most people do when they make their positive affirmations, they're saying things that they want to happen as if it has not already happened. And so again, the subconscious mind believes quote unquote what it hears consistently. So if it believes, if you hears, I want this, then what is the subconscious mind actually believing? That I don't have it. And so we have to get to the point in the position, just like God said, light be. It was not that let there be light. The actual Hebrew says light be. Basically, there's light already that's inside of me, inside of my mind. Let it be in the exterior world. So if you want money, what you already have, be. If you want a good relationship, which I already have, be. In terms of be just means manifest it into the 3D material world. That's it. But you can only have, as the Bible says, you have to have it before you have it. So therefore, if you want to understand how Jewish people operate, they operate Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. But it gets even deeper. It gets even deeper. Because these folks know something. And when you talk to them, you get clues. Remember I told you, I'm a pretty smart dude, but I'm not smart because of the knowledge that I've amassed over the course of my life. I'm smart because I can hear something and I can apply the esoteric principles. That's what makes me smart. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be smart. Because at the end of the day, the one thing I care about is you being able to transform your life and live the life of your dreams easier than you could ever imagine. All right, so let's talk about this. So I remember I was having a conversation with another guy, one of my my Jewish mentors. And we're talking, and I think his grandparents or his great-grandparents escaped the Holocaust. So they came over from Poland, came to the United States. I think they came through Ellis Island, and they had absolutely nothing. So my friend was saying, yeah, they started out in a Jewish ghetto. He said his grandpa or his great-grandpa, I can't remember, was a shoemaker. And so he made shoes. And so all the community, they kind of came together. They had these Jewish ghettos, and they all supported one another. And so he saw the look on my face. I was like, and he started smiling. And he said, why are you so surprised? And he said, I know why you're so surprised. He said, you've never heard of a Jewish ghetto, have you? All right, ghetto. And I said, you're totally right. I never knew Jewish ghettos existed. And he said, would you like to know why Jewish ghettos you didn't know Jewish ghettos existed? And I said, please, tell me. He said, you didn't know that because they don't exist anymore. And to me, that was fascinating. And he's one of my friends too, so we speak real candidly. And he said, because what you think of a ghetto, you think of you black people, don't you? And again, that's my boy. I love him because he talks like that. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I think of. And then so he started explaining to me, and I was like, well, why are there no Jewish ghettos anymore? And he said, it's because of you guys heroes. He's like, that's why. And I was like, wait, what? What do heroes have to do with there being black ghettos and not Jewish ghettos? And he said, let me explain something to you. He said, growing up, our heroes growing up were bankers, lawyers, judges, and doctors. He said those were our heroes growing up. Bankers, lawyers, judges, doctors. He said basically anybody in a position of authority and power. And he said, you know who you guys heroes are? He said, what? Athletes? Singers or rappers? Etc. And so I'll highlight this. So I'm gonna put Jewish, and I'll put black. And this is what he said to me. Again, it's just me and him talking. And he said, so the difference between you guys heroes and my heroes is that as long as I have a working brain, I can pretty much become one of these. He said, but the barrier of entry, let me put an E right here, excuse me. He said, but the barrier of entry to be an athlete, he said, if you're not 6 foot something, you're not making it to the NBA. Or if you do, it's an anomaly, it's an outlier. He said, if you can't sing like Beyonce, you're not gonna be a famous singer and make a lot of money singing. He said, if you don't have a natural talent of rapping, he said, but even that, there's still so much of a barrier of entry because it takes somebody like us to be able to give you the deal. And that was the difference. And I'll never forget this. And he says, Flu, he was my friend. He says, you know, I like you, Flu. I was like, I know you do. He said, you know, we're really good friends. And he said, did you know if we were working together, I'd pay you more than I'd pay myself. I was like, what? That don't even make any sense. If we were working together and you were the boss, like, why would you pay me more than you pay yourself? And he said, I'm gonna tell you why. I don't mind paying you more than I pay me, as long as I'm the one writing the check. Because if I can write the check, then I control the narrative. And I'll never forget these words. He said, son, don't be concerned about how much money you make. Be more concerned about the power that you wield. That blew my mind, but it opened my mind up to realize that Jewish people, they believe that they have access to so much power. Why? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. So they have heard over and over and over again, be the person in the position of power. We have heard over and over and over again, go get your money. Go get your money. Go get that paper. Paper chasing. Hustling. Like, we've heard that over and over in our lives. And here's the funny part about it though. Money is an inanimate object. And I'll make another video about this. And so when you're chasing something that actually in itself doesn't do anything, I don't care who you are. If you have $1 billion cash and you are stranded on a deserted island, that $1 billion can do you absolutely no good unless you can just float on it or something. It does not matter at all because you're chasing a thing that is an inanimate object. But when you're chasing a thing, a power, what is power though? It's just a reflection. The Lord our God is one. Almighty, all powerful. See, we thought it was the almighty dollar. No, it is the almighty that creates dollar, and that is all of this. Do you understand now? So this was one of the secrets of Jewish success that I've learned. It's not very difficult. It's actually very, very easy if you, on a consistent and constant basis, can just start changing what you hear. Instead of putting Israel, put your name. So here, Flu, the Lord, your God, is one. and change that. There's nothing wrong with being able to change those verses, especially if they fit with what you want in life. All you have to do is be a consistent, constant hearer of good. And if you program your subconscious mind, then you can have anything you want to have in life. You can do anything you want to do in life. You can be anything you want to be in life, and you can see anything you want to see in life. And I think that's the secret to Jewish success. Peace.